The Sacramento Kings have been rumored to be looking to trade the number 4 pick, so in this video I'll be proposing 6 different trades that could be very close to a win-win. So first of all, if a trade is going to happen, it needs to be because the team is in love with Jaden Ivey. The Kings have all the leverage in the world to pick whoever they want and aren't pressured at all to trade down. So the offer needs to be really good. I want to start this video off by talking about them keeping the pick, and if you want to skip to the trades, there are timestamps below, but in order to use them, you have to hit the like button. So do what you need to do. I think there is a very high chance that Jaden Ivey is the player that gets picked number 4 overall, whether it be the Sacramento Kings or another team. But I actually do think Jaden Ivey is a very good fit on the Sacramento Kings. I understand that the Kings just traded their star guard last year, but on the roster there were 3 young point guards, and Jaden Ivey is certainly not a point guard. I think Ivey's playmaking abilities are good enough to be a good playmaker at the 2, but not good enough to be a good playmaker at the point guard. He's a good creator, good catch and shoot guy, and has a lot of potential to be a good defender next to De'Aaron Fox, especially with a new coach coming into the organization. But if the Kings want multiple pieces or just don't believe in Ivey, there are plenty of teams who are willing to take a chance on him. So here are 6 trades that the Kings could consider in regards to the 4th overall pick. Some of these trades are nothing too crazy, so how about we start this list with some crazy and later we'll end it with some crazy, so stick to the end of the video. Our first trade is the Sacramento Kings sending the 4th overall pick to the San Antonio Spurs for picks 9, 20, 38, and Keita Bates-Diop. Hopefully I said that right. Now this is a bit similar to a trade that happened a couple drafts ago in the 2019 NBA draft when the Hawks traded picks 8, 17, 35, and a future protected first round pick for the 4th overall pick where they drafted DeAndre Hunter. And I actually like this trade for both teams. On the Sacramento Kings side, they now get multiple first round picks. At 9, they could take some prospects whose defense is a lot safer to bet on, like a Jalen Duren. He's a good defensive center. Tari Eason and Jeremy Sohan are both good defensive 4s. Johnny Davis looks like a really good defensive 2, and this way you can get a sleeper at pick 20. I really like Malachi Branham on this team. You already have playmakers in Fox, Sabonis, and Davion Mitchell, and Branham gives you everything you want besides playmaking. And Bates-Diop is a player who doesn't have much potential or upside as he's shown on the Spurs, but a defensive backup wing never hurts. Now on the Spurs side, this is a trade if you're really looking for a backcourt duo for DeJounte Murray, and if you want to keep Podol as your future center. In the past decade or so, backcourt duos haven't been exactly the recipe for winning outside of Steph and Clay. Like, you look at the Dame and CJ duo, for obvious reasons it has its flaws, but the defensive potential of DeJounte Murray and Jaden Ivey here is crazy. On top of that, you still have Devin Vassell, you still have Keldon. I think this core in a couple years could be nasty, very switch all, and the Spurs still keep the 25th pick. And I feel like there is a huge drop off after the first about 28 prospects, so you can still draft a steal for your bench unit. This trade puts both teams in a great position to win. Now this next trade is pretty boring, but if the Pistons are really loving Jaden Ivey and they feel threatened that the Kings also love him, the Kings could trade the 4th overall pick to the Detroit Pistons for the 5th overall pick and a top 10 protected first round pick in 2025. Now the reason it's 2025 is because in the trade machine, it wouldn't let me trade any earlier of a first round pick because of some rules. I think it's called like the Stephen rule or whatever, but the Kings could end up with an extra lottery pick in a couple years. And if they actually weren't crazy about Ivey, or they were just crazy about another player in the top 6 like a Keegan Murray or Shaedon Sharpe, this is just an easy way to get an extra draft pick while drafting the player they want. And for the Pistons, if you truly believe Ivey is the guy, you go get him. I like the fit of him being in Detroit. I feel like Dwayne Casey brings the best out of Ivey, and you can finally slide Cade Cunningham to the 1 full time where I think he can thrive best. So this trade is a bit boring, but it could be a useful one. My third trade is a bit interesting one, and it's a bit out of nowhere, but the Sacramento Kings trade pick 4 and Harrison Barnes to the Atlanta Hawks for John Collins and pick 16. Now for the Kings, if you want to win now, John Collins is a decent defender who still has a lot of potential to be a good one, and we all know how elite offensively Collins can be. A good pick and roll or pick and pop guy for Fox. He was drafted in the same draft as Fox, and Sabonis was drafted a year earlier, so all 3 are on the same timeline. And you still get pick 16 for a key bench guy. Now you guys might be wondering, why do the Atlanta Hawks do this? Or maybe you're not, but I know a lot of Hawks fans are really attached to John Collins, but as much as I love him, when Collins went down, not only did the Hawks keep afloat, but they actually did a bit better without him. Not to say that he's not a winner, I don't think that at all, but when Trey already has his role men like Capella and Okongwu, John Collins' role is pretty diminished, so the Hawks at pick 4 could get Ivey or Sharpe or Murray, save some salary cap, maybe find a potential duo for Trey, or maybe our pick can just be an asset that we flip in a year. But we also get Harrison Barnes who can come off the bench. I see this trade as a win-win. My 4th trade is also a bit boring, but the last 2 are pretty fun, so stick around. The Kings trade pick number 4 to the Pacers for pick 6, O'Shea Brissett, and a future second round pick. Again, this is a trade where the Pacers want Jaden Ivey and the Kings are not exactly too sure on him. So the Pacers get some urgency into getting a second star into Indiana, or at least a potential star. And O'Shea has showed some great signs in the 2021 season. His last season was a bit disappointing, but you get some depth if you're Sacramento. This trade is a bit basic, but the Pacers arena just gives off such a college ball vibe, and Ivey is such a college ball kind of player. If this makes any sense, I think Indiana fans would absolutely love him. My fifth trade is the Sacramento Kings trading the number 4 overall pick to the Washington Wizards for pick 10 and Kyle Kuzma. And you might be questioning this from a Wizards perspective, but first, the Kings are able to keep a top 10 pick while getting a win now player who is a good on defense, who will be able to fit on whatever team you put him on. At pick 10, you still might be able to get a Jalen Duren for your center spot or a defending guard or wing. And on the Wizards side, right now you are really clustered with wings as you have Beal, Kispert, Avdia, Roy Hachimura, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma. I just feel like one of them has to go, and two of them kind of stand out from an age perspective, and that's Kyle Kuzma and KCP. And even though Ivey is not a point guard, I feel like Beal has the playmaking ability to be a 1 or a playmaking 2. And if I'm the Wizards, I want the best chance of building a trio of Porzingis, Beal, and Ivey, because the Eastern Conference is only getting harder. And my final trade is the Kings trading pick 4 in Harrison Barnes, along with a future first round pick to the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell. And when you compare Donovan Mitchell to the rest of the decent packages, it sounds a bit crazy, but I feel like Utah and the rest of the world knows that the Utah Jazz cannot build their team through trades or through free agency. They have to build their team through the draft. I mean, when you just look at all the other major cities that NBA teams are in, Salt Lake City is not a destination to stay at. And this scenario is only if Donovan Mitchell demands a trade, but the Utah Jazz do not really care where he requests to, so they just send him wherever. Sacramento gets his duo next to Fox. Hopefully the new head coach can make some good defensive adjustments for Donovan. And I think the Kings might be a playoff team. The Jazz get a new future star, start a rebuild, and could potentially build hope for a dynasty after 3 to 4 years of drafting high, because they're pretty good at drafting. So those were my trade ideas. Let me know which were good and which sucked in the comments, and let me know what kind of video I should record next. Like it, subscribe, and peace.